everyone out in our TPN community. Welcome to another episode of TPN Talks with Leticia. We have a special guest today, Asa DeCouteau, who is our accounting supervisor. So Asa, thank you so much for joining. I'm excited to have this conversation today. Why don't you just start by introducing yourself? If you could tell us maybe your name, your pronouns, and anything else that you want to share about you that's unique that people could learn about you.
Absolutely. Thanks, Leticia, for having me. I'm really excited to talk with you. So again, my name is Asa DeCouteau. I use they, them pronouns. I'm the accounting supervisor here at TPN. I have been with the Pathfinder Network for a little over 2.5 years now. And I have been in nonprofit accounting for about, I think I just hit 6 years, which has flown by. Outside of work, I spend most of my time entertaining my 3 dogs, Harlan, Charlie, and Ladybird. I'm a huge animal lover. Folks ask me sometime about my pandemic project. I fostered 7 kittens, lived with a lot of small animals as well. I think one thing that I'm excited to share with folks, years ago, in a past life, prior to my career in accounting, I trained and worked as a full spectrum doula, which means I provided non-medical labor support to folks who were pregnant in labor and postpartum to them and their families during that season in their lives. That work kind of introduced to me this idea of reproductive justice. It turns out that a lot of the work that we do here at TPN actually aligns with some of those tenets of reproductive justice, specifically the idea that we all have a right to raise and parent children in safe homes and safe communities. And that's something that I would love to talk about more. Yeah, it's just a passion of mine.
That is so cool. I'm glad you shared that. I did not know that. And I think such an important place to focus, but just thinking about the young people, that are being born in our community and the ways that we can start their lives like in utero in really healthy, nurturing ways. So I love that. And I can totally see the synergy that exists there. And we've done some really cool things in Oregon around reproductive justice that I'm definitely interested in diving more into as an organization. So cool. And now that I know you have that expertise, I'm sure we'll have more conversations. People hear that you're the accounting supervisor, but what does that mean on the day-to-day basis? What's a day in the life of Asa look like at TPN?
It really depends on the time of the month. So the first part of the month is our busy period. That's when we're working to close our accounts payable. Folks will also be talking about closing AP. And that's just invoices. That's just all of our bills that we've got to get paid. So credit card reconciliations, employee reimbursements are part of that. That's why we have the deadlines that we do. And so that's our first step. After that, we're just doing journal entries. I spend a lot of time in Excel, honestly. I think is the main thing, just keeping everything on track and processing all the transactions that come through.
That's great to hear. I know we keep you really busy with all the services that we're providing and all the participant expenses. So it's really great to hear. How about your favorite thing about working with TPN? What would you say that is?
There is this sort of baseline shared understanding amongst the staff at TPN, right? And that's, most of us do have some kind of lived experience with these systems or with addiction. But I think even amongst the folks that, who don't necessarily have that experience, we believe in the work that we're doing. And that is something that you do see a lot of nonprofits, but here it's just different. I'm a very mission-driven person. I realized a long time ago, I'm not fulfilled working in the for-profit sector. I feel really fortunate to have landed at TPN for that reason, because I see the impact every day, even working on the admin side, right, on the finance side. Recently I got to see this sort of journey that a participant was on just through the check requests that their peer was sending to us. I could see where they were at in their process of reunifying with their child. And it started with paying fees for administering supervised visits, all the way up until paying a deposit on a home for them to live in with their child. Knowing that I get to see it every day, right? The money that goes out the door is going directly to supporting our participants, meeting their goals and following their own paths. I think that is just incredibly fulfilling. There's not a day where I don't feel proud to be at TPN doing this work, because results are there really every day that we're making a difference for our participants.
Yeah, thank you. That makes so much sense. And I always appreciate how quickly the finance team processes those requests. It's like they have to have it in 12 hours and you all find a way to make it happen. So I just appreciate that and want to call that out. It's so important to be able to meet people exactly where they're at in the time frame that's going to help reduce the barrier for them. So our mission at TPN is to provide justice system impacted individuals and families the tools and support that they need to be safe and thrive in our communities. So what does that mission mean to you? And then maybe kind of anything about the future of our organization and where we're headed that you might want to share. So
I think specifically that phrase "be safe and thrive" in their communities, right? That's one of my favorite parts of the mission is just those words. And I think that's because we could talk about and debate and go back and forth all we want about our feelings on reentry and what it means to pay a debt to society, and is that even really what folks are doing when they're incarcerated, right? And ultimately, the question that I think we have to answer is how do we build and maintain thriving communities? We tried a war on drugs, and that didn't work, right? Shame and incarceration, it turns out, are not always the strongest motivators for folks. It might work short term, but long term, seeing that those things just don't work for people. It's not how we change behavior. And people deserve to have stability long term. Their children deserve to have stability long term. Take for example, even someone who is not connected to this work, someone who doesn't have experience with addiction or incarceration, they deserve to have safe and healthy and thriving neighbors, right? It really is a community issue. There's really not anyone in Portland or in Oregon, who could say, oh, that doesn't affect me. It's a question of who's in our community and is everyone getting what they need. Also, one of our greatest strengths at TPN, and something that I'm just endlessly proud of, is that we are operating on a peer mentor model rather than from like a social work or caseworker model. Folks can come in, they walk in our doors, and they know that they are going to talk to someone who has, uncannily similar experiences as they do. And that's not necessarily a given at a lot of other orgs. Knowing that they're not going to be judged, I think is the first step to building those relationships. What does it take to be safe and thriving in your community? It's those relationships, and you have to start getting to know people. And I think this is something that our peers do really well, is just building connections and saying, hey, are you hungry today? What do you need today? And then kind of jumping into, maybe the heavier duty stuff. So that's what our mission means to me, that we're showing up for our people, we're walking alongside them, because it's what everyone deserves. It's what they deserve, and it's what our communities deserve.
that's so cool. It reminded me, your share inspired me of something that one of our advisory board members said to me recently. He said, what's understood doesn't have to be explained. And I think that's what happens, certainly with our peer staff, but other staff across the agency at every point who have shared lived experience. It's like, if you know that firsthand or even secondhand or in close proximity, there's not a lot of explaining that needs to be happened. There's like this embedded empathy. I mean, yeah, I always say we're powered by lived experience because it's not something that you can even explain or like create a diagram around. It just is. And we're intentional about that. I love that you shared that and lifted it up. I wonder if you'd be willing just to talk about some of the cool things that the finance team is doing to help us serve our community and our participants better.
So we are looking into specifically enhancing our capacity and building in more kind of tech-oriented solutions. We're really excited to have rolled out Avid Exchange, which is an accounts payable invoice processing platform that has already made a really big difference for us. We are able to process a lot of, I think most of our non-participant expenses through Avid, and we're really excited about a lot of the things that we're working on to build capacity. One of which was our recent promotion of Jasmine to accounting specialist. If the accounting specialists are doing higher level work, I can do higher level work. Jenny does higher level work. It's actually a really exciting year for us. We have a lot of things kind of up and moving around and changing, and it's all towards just making everything more efficient and in search of, I think, greater service to the agency.
And innovative ways. So thank you for your work and helping us to be more agile. All right. Well, I've asked you a bunch of questions. Do you have any questions for me?
I think one thing that I'm always curious about is what keeps you at TPN?
I just feel like I have opportunities every single day to see the direct impact of our work. I've said this a few times before. I just remember through my own lived experience feeling a lot of powerlessness. I'm in this situation. I don't know any other way. I don't have any other avenues, any other pathways. That was such a hard experience to have. Every time I see that light in someone else's experience, or I see a need getting met, or someone feeling supported, or someone feeling like they're not being judged, it just feels like I'm creating light. So I get opportunities to do that every single day in really direct ways and really indirect ways. And then the other thing that I would add is just that I get to do it with, I believe, some of the coolest people on the planet. The people who work here are exceptional, like really unmatched. And so those two things together getting to create light and make an impact and do it with incredible people who I know have the same purpose and mission is like, I don't know, I don't think I could really ask for much more. I feel really fortunate. And even the hardest days in totality don't feel like work at all. It feels like a really purpose-driven way to spend my energy. So yeah, thank you for asking that. I appreciate it. Well, Asa, I've loved having this conversation. I learned something new about you, which was fun. And I love hearing, and you do this a lot. I'm inspired a lot by the ways that you translate some of the most technical things into being mission driven and purpose driven and getting us closer to our goals. So it was great to hear more about that and get to highlight who you are and how you show up as a team member of TPN. So thank you for the conversation. Thank you for joining. And thank you to everyone who joined us today for another episode of TPN Talks with Leticia. We'll see you next time.